there are already companies that are selling software or their website that can spot when something's ChatGPT or something's human. And this is the thing: if there's other companies selling it, Google's already figured that out. Google is famous for having hundreds of indicators for their ranking algorithm. They never tell us what it is. Again, I don't have any knowledge of this, but I guarantee you, if they haven't already, worked that into their algorithm. That if you do nothing but post a website with just ChatGPT generated content, it's going to recognize it and it's not going to give you points for it.
Welcome to the Dr. Marketing Tips Show. I'm your host, Corey, and with me today is Chad Roush, the Digital Marketing Director at Insight Marketing Group. Welcome to the show, Chad.
Thank you very much. Glad to be here.
So today we're venturing into something that it's ever evolving, but we all know it, and that's search engine optimization, or better known as SEO. So it's no secret that SEO is kind of the backbone of what helps organic traffic and organic search work, and it really drives people to your website. But just like everything on the digital side, SEO trends, they shift, they evolve, they change. Sometimes you'll hear someone at an agency specifically say, "Oh, Google changed their algorithm," and that's just a fancy way of saying that behind the scenes, they turned some knobs, and now all of a sudden, this blog post that did really well, it doesn't do so well anymore. So invited Chad here today to kind of share what's working, what's different, what we kind of need to know, and sort of what's next. So with that, Chad, what are some of the top trends in SEO right now that you're seeing?
Well, there are some top trends. Mind you, most of these trends kind of have to do with just the basics of best practices. They've kind of always been. But one of the top trends is that there's always been, at least for the last several years, this acronym that Google likes to use called EAT, E-A-T. The things they're looking for in your website that's going to rank you highly. And it usually stands for expertise, authoritativeness, and trustworthiness. So that means that they want to, when they have all their indicators, but what they're mostly looking for is that you have expertise in the area you pretend you're saying you do, that you are an authoritative authority on that subject. That usually means however many people are actually reading, sharing, linking back, things like that. And trustworthiness, that you're not trying to pull a fast one. In the old days, a black hat, like, hey, I'm selling Cadillacs. You click on it, it's like, oh no, now we're selling like, vitamin supplements, things like that. People just try that. Black hat. Fun. But they've kind of expanded their idea of expertise a little bit, and they really want experience, which means it's kind of like, you have to be experienced, but you have to be an expert in your field, but you have to have a little bit long experience in it. And kind of what that means is stay on focus. So if you do have a website that is about a specific concept, so in our case, it would be, a medical practice, when you put on content on there, make sure it all relates to that upper subject and you're not talking about a tangential subject. So for instance, that's things like, if you're all about, healthcare, don't start doing blogs about marketing, because that's going to split off how Google sees you. They're seeing you as an expert with experience and authority in healthcare, and also just talking about marketing. Even if it's healthcare marketing, they're still going to say, well, you're starting to use all these words, you're starting to find all these topics, and you're starting to get traffic and links from sites that we have not made part of your your portfolio of keywords. It's going to confuse them, and so that can drop you in some ratings. The next one is, again, this is just a good old-fashioned SEO tip: target your audience and not specifically traffic. What you want is, we say that, is what you want is you want people who are interested in your subject coming to your website and spending some time on there, and not just a bunch of people hitting your traffic and bouncing off. It doesn't matter how much people hit your website, it's also how often and how long they stay there. Because when they've redone their analytics, which people should know by now that old Google Analytics went away and we have new Google Analytics 4. Google Analytics 4, you'll see there's all these new metrics, and a lot of them have to do with engagement. How long they're spending on your website, how many pages they go to on your website, how much are they clicking on things, are they, all that stuff matters more now than just getting there, which used to be kind of the big thing. Is just, can you get that click? Then hey, yeah, you're good. So we don't want to do anything like that. And then of course the third one, something probably everyone's tired of hearing, is AI generated content. So ChatGPT.
And what does that mean for the folks listening when AI generated content? How does that relate to SEO exactly?
Well, how it's SEO is because SEO is usually based on the content on your website. Google, I mean, when you say you're targeting a keyword on your website, you're going to write some content about that keyword. You just can't go to a page and say healthcare and think you're going to rank well for healthcare. You've got to have a lot of content around it. That content is what builds Google's sense of your experience, your expertise, and then your authority and trustworthiness is based on how other people interact with it. Do they come from you share that article on Facebook? People link to it from another blog. They have to have something to link to. They're not just linked to a word, but they're going to link to an article. So content is why we always say content is king in SEO. So ChatGPT rolled around this year, and you can give it a little prompt. If people haven't played with it, it's so much fun, and it will write you something. So that's a quick, easy way to get content onto your website. So we're going to see an explosion in content because we've been, all as marketers, been taught for years, content's king. Now we have an easy way to do that. So
yeah, so zooming out just a little bit. So in case you're not familiar with how that works, so ChatGPT, it's a website that you go to. You just Google that, and you can enter any prompt you want, and it will use basically all the knowledge that it can find on the internet dating up to 2021 and fulfill your request. So for example, if you are an ortho practice, you could say, write me a blog post that is 500 words about the top 5 reasons to have a partial knee replacement versus a total knee replacement. And ChatGPT will spit out an article that, if the prompt is good, it may actually look like a quality piece of content. So I wanted to share that example specifically because I think if you're listening to this and you want to do best practices for SEO, you go to ChatGPT, you put in this prompt, it gives you an article. It takes about, 60 seconds or so to have this blog post. And that is such a huge time saver. It seems like it can really be a game changer. So what you're saying though, Chad, is from an SEO standpoint, you probably don't want to just copy and paste that, right? Was that what I'm hearing?
That's exactly what I'm getting to. There's a caveat to it. Is that as we talk about Google Analytics 4, looking for engagement, one of the engagements is how long you spend on the page. Not just that, it can actually track when you scroll. So you have to ask yourself, when this ChatGPT or whatever AI bot you use, when it spits out content, is it good content? Is it engaging content? Is it something that's going to actually hook someone? Because a lot of times it will give you something that will, yes, it will make sense. It will be coherent, but it won't be engaging. It will lack that human touch. So kind of the best way, if you are planning on using ChatGPT, whatever it produces, you should always treat as just a first draft. This is my first draft. It's going to get, because if anyone's written, they know first draft is always the hardest draft. It's going to take the most time. And then you really have to get down to the business of editing, clarifying points, adding research. So there's, so it's got some meat to the bones so people will actually be engaged with it. And that's the part you cannot skip with this, because the other side of the coin is that there are already companies that are selling software or their website that can spot when something's ChatGPT or something's human. And this is the thing: if there's other companies selling it, Google's already figured that out. Google is famous for having hundreds of indicators for their ranking algorithm. They never tell us what it is. Again, I don't have any knowledge of this, but I guarantee you, if they haven't already, worked that into their algorithm. That if you do nothing but post a website with just ChatGPT generated content, it's going to recognize it and it's not going to give you points for it. So that's why you should always just treat that whatever ChatGPT spits out as a first draft, and rewrite that and give it some life. Give it some research and make it engaging. Because again, remember, that's what one of the new trends of this year is that target audiences. So you want an audience to actually read it, engage with it, and probably share it That's going to be a big thing for you as well.
Yeah, and a couple things that you can do there. So sort of wrapping everything that you're saying together. You want to make sure that the content is unique, that it's engaging, and that people wind up not only reading it, but reading through it, right? So they're scrolling through and they're spending time on your site. So something that we do is we actually start the other way around in a lot of cases when we can, and we start with video, and that leads to the written. And so one thing that you can do is, if you have the opportunity to film your positions or your providers, even if it's just with your phone, have them answer that same question that you're going to put into ChatGPT. And then you can still use ChatGPT to avoid the writer's block issue and put together something. And then, like Chad was saying, you can go back in and edit that and really kind of give it your own voice, because what you'll find a lot of times is ChatGPT is going to use a lot of adjectives and superlatives and things that really make it not very formal sounding. So you're going to have to edit that one way or the other. But then when you go to build that on your website, you can add in the video for your providers, add in a couple of photos that make sense, maybe a patient testimonial and things like that. So what that does is it really kind of creates this rich content for your site where you're answering the question that you set out to answer. And then you've also got a video there. What I like to tell people all the time is that the written word will help people get to your site. But once people are actually on your site, they're probably going to watch the video. They prefer that over reading it. So if you have both options there, you're kind of covered.
Exactly. And another caveat for ChatGPT is you have to remember is that ChatGPT is kind of Google itself. It's using all the knowledge of the internet on a certain subject. And that's the good knowledge on the subject and the bad knowledge on the subject. So there's a lot of people out there that will have blogs, that will have magazines, that have incorrect information, outdated information. Just so sometimes you really do need to make sure you fact check your article as well to make sure that it's giving you the proper information. We have input stuff in ChatGPT, and it's giving us stuff that's just, it's not correct at all. I mean, we read 5 or 6 sentences, like, this is just wrong. So I don't know where they found it, but it's kind of like how Google, how if you change your search, you're going to get different parameters. Same thing. So however we did our prompt, it probably pulled up this stuff that's just, it's just wrong. So you have to be careful with that, because again, that goes into that original what Google's looking for of experience, expertise, and authoritativeness. And if you're giving chunks that Google knows is wrong because they've kind of already gathered what they think is the correct natures of a subject, they're going to reject that.
Yeah, ChatGPT can be a little echo chambery in a sense that it kind of gives you what you want to hear or what it thinks you want to hear. So you definitely need to be careful there. And I want to touch real quick on one of your other points where you said essentially to target audiences and not traffic. And I think that that's just sort of general rule of thumb SEO best practices is don't go into each thing that you create thinking I'm going to get the very most amount of hits possible. I think it makes sense to do research and know what people are searching for, but then really provide the content that's relevant to your audience that you know is going to resonate with them. And if you provide that value, and if it's really good information, then you're going to do well, right? I mean, as long as you're providing valuable, engaging content, and like I said, that's anything from some videos or some photos that you can supplement in there and really make sure that it's in the voice of your providers or your practice, you'll be fine and you won't have to worry about these things. As long as you're doing that good content, then the rest will kind of take care of itself. Wouldn't you agree?
Exactly. That's exactly why we have those best practices. People for years have been trying to trick the system, and Google always will tell you, just follow the best practices and you'll be rewarded.
Yeah. To create something that someone wants to engage with, and then you're set. So with that, huge thank you to Chad for shedding some light on some of the new things going on with SEO here. And to our listeners and our viewers, thank you for being here. And we hope you learned something by tuning in today that will help you in your practice. And so with that, I'm Corey. This is the Dr. Marketing Tips Show, and we'll catch you in the next one. Thanks.
If you want more like this, hit like and subscribe so you'll always be alerted to new episodes when they come out. And if you want information about us, visit us over at insightmg.com. That's insightmg.com. We'll see you on the next episode.